Hello and welcome to the Health Tech Marketing Show. I'm your host, Adam Chirinas, and I'm the CEO and founder of Health Launchpad, who brings you this show, this podcast, this video if you're watching it that way. And I do that in partnership with the awesome HIMS, who I'm very grateful to for their support. Thank you to you for listening. I hope you're subscribing. If you're not subscribing, if you watch the video, you can subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening to this maybe randomly somewhere, I don't know, you can subscribe to this on Apple, Spotify, whatever podcast application you use. And hey, so today's episode is about the thing that everybody's talking about. It's AI. So we did a show last year with this guy over here, Casey Meehan. So Casey, great friend of mine, somebody I've known for about 4 years now, content marketing guy extraordinaire, and my personal AI guru, but somebody actually who's really taken the time over the last few years to kind of get his head around generative AI so I don't have to. Casey's part of our extended team at Health Launchpad, but he also has his own thing called Blazing Zebra, which he'll probably explain what that means. Yeah. But if you've been subscribing for a while, you might have heard Casey's show. It's actually one of our most listened to episodes. And rightly so. And this was about 4, 5, 6 months ago, where ChatGPT had been around for about 6 months. People have been playing around with it. And it's good. It's a good episode to go back if you're still trying to get your head around it. It's quite a good grounding. But today, what we're actually going to focus on is sort of like, talk a little bit about what's new with generative AI and all that good stuff. But we're really going to get into the nitty gritty about how it can get applied, particularly if you have, with your staff, how you can help your team really turbocharge their productivity using these AI tools. And so Casey's got a lot to talk about that. So Casey, for those of you who don't know you, tell everybody a little about yourself and then tell us what's new and cool with generative AI.
Sounds good. Yeah, I was a marketing agency owner and founder for about 10 years, and I had always been a hobby programmer and specifically really interested in machine learning. I've had data scientists on my staff from time to time. We've built all sorts of tools. This was before ChatGPT was out, and I had my eye on it. We focused on long form blog copy. So I knew that there was all these different AI tools. GPT-2, I remember when that came out, and especially when 3 came out, obviously that was a big thing that caused me to pivot pretty dramatically into mainly starting a YouTube channel called Blazing Zebra, where it's my mission to just help marketers and entrepreneurs learn practical and actionable AI skills. There's so much noise in the space, and a lot of folks are very confused on to just actually how to use this or even where to get started with it. So that's what the gap I'm trying to fill there with the channel.
I got to ask you, why Blazing Zebra?
Good question. And I haven't really spoken about this publicly before, but the name just kind of came to me. You can see the background music's a big part of my life. So it kind of had the indie rock band feel to it. But the name came to me and I kept thinking, why is this? And it started to really manifest when I started to realize that I think marketers and maybe all of us, any professional, we're at the beginning of this great migration, where I think all of the old familiar watering holes are starting to dry up, and we need to move fairly quickly. We don't need to freak out, but we need to move fairly quickly to adapt and try to find these new watering holes. And we need to really embrace our own unique, whatever makes us unique. So that's where the Blazing Zebra comes from, the fast and unique, because what these tools aren't is unique. Everybody's got access to the same tools. So really figuring out what your strengths are, what you're good at, and how you can apply these tools in that area. That's where the name comes from.
Great story. Every brand needs a great story, and you certainly got one there.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is the first time I've explained it publicly. It's still pretty new. I just announced it on LinkedIn really yesterday. So I'm just kind of coming out of beta, I guess, and becoming more public with the channel. So it's been an exciting ride, and you've been a big part of it, Adam. I really appreciate your support in the past year as I've been getting this going.
So, all right, what's going on? What's new? What's sort of the big changes that have been happening in the...
A lot is new since we talked, yes. So I think the big message is that last year, I think everybody in the world has become aware of it. Most people have probably poked around with it. Very few, I think, have really implemented it into their day-to-day workflow and getting some real efficiencies out of it. So that's what I think 2024 is all about on a personal level, departmental level, really taking some time to implement these tools. And, I think taking time is key there. It's just like any sort of delegating of any task, it doesn't happen automatically. And these tools are so easy to use right out of the box. I think everybody is assuming that everything that has to do with them is going to be easy, but it takes a little bit of work to really get the most value out of these. So I think this year is the year of really integrating them into your workflows. So I guess the biggest thing was the introduction of these custom GPTs. So ways to add information to your custom GPT in a way that you can use over and over again. This started as custom instructions, and then it got a little bit more advanced in these custom GPTs, which you can now build and reuse and share in a lot of different ways.
Let's get a little bit specific. So
Sure.
Custom GPTs, it's only within ChatGPT, right? That's not, can you do them on Claude? Can you do them on Perplexity? Is it just a ChatGPT?
That is specific to OpenAI ChatGPT, correct. Although
ChatGPT, you're going to have ChatGPT 4?
ChatGPT 4 is the current model, yeah.
Yeah. And you got to be paying for it, $20 a month or whatever it is.
Yes, that's a big point too. The folks that are just still using the free model, they're not accessing the true value of it. So you can't really be, when I hear people say I played around with the free model and didn't get much out of it, that's not really what the buzz is about.
Yeah.
That's fun, but if you want to take it seriously, you do have to plunk down the $20 or whatever it is.
So with ChatGPT, your main action is happening in the sort of in the big frame on the right, but it's the bar down the left has all these different utilities, and it's one of those is also adding applications and adding plugins, right? But which is pretty neat. But where you create a custom GPT is in there. So what would be kind of like a typical custom GPT, and what's the process is it to do something like that?
Sure. One I just created this morning, and again, I took a little time out of my workflow to build this, but it's for creating my YouTube descriptions for my videos. So I went right into it says there's different ways to navigate it. It'll probably be different by the time this even comes out, but find a way to navigate into creating your own custom GPT. And then you write a little bit of instructions in there. Really, my instructions were your role is to create YouTube descriptions that are based on the examples in the file that I've uploaded. And then I uploaded a file of about 4 or 5 different YouTube descriptions that I've created. So now I can just upload the transcript of my video, which is created automatically, and it cranked out a pretty well perfect YouTube description, which used to take me at least a half hour to an hour to create.
And that's basically, so the custom GPT is essentially a kind of a repeatable prompt. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
It's like saving a prompt. And you can do, like, for example, with these podcasts, I do a video and I'll then I use the script to create a transcript. And then I will go over to my favorite actual tool for this is actually Claude. I'll go over to Claude and I will say, tell me the top 10 topics we talked about in this transcript. So it does that. Write me a 2,000 word blog post. So I'll go through that. And then I will edit that quite a lot, but it saves me at least an hour by doing that. So I don't just publish what I get out of that. I do make a lot of changes to it. But I'll also then say, and then create me 2 LinkedIn posts to publicize this, and then write the description for that. So I do all of those sorts of things. And I'm using it because I'm doing it in Claude. It's not that I can't do this, but if I was to do it in ChatGPT, I could set up, it sounds to me like I could set up a custom GPT take this transcript and run the sequence. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, there would be a little more to it than that, but I think Anthropic's Claude is a great writing tool. I agree with you. I think it does a lot of things better than ChatGPT, so I use that one a lot myself, and for what you've described can be a good fit. But what you might want to think about experimenting with is taking, you mentioned you had to edit it quite a bit. So maybe you can take the outputs of Claude and then create a custom GPT saying, hey, these are three examples of my finished, or I'm sorry, these are the examples of the inputs, and these are examples of my finished, what I'm looking to get out of this. And then when you put the raw data in there, it might be able to get a little bit closer to exactly what we won't have to edit as much.
Right. And I'm just thinking of another custom GPT would be one of the big issues that we deal with account-based marketing is the notion of wanting to personalize. And so creating more personalized emails. And, our colleague Bob was on the show a few weeks ago and talked actually about how his process for creating much more personalized emails, just tailored based on information. I could see how you could create a custom GPT essentially to do that, right?
Yeah, and it gets really exciting kind of to jump to some of the other topics we're going to discuss here is starting to integrate things with Zapier has been on the top of my mind. I'm not sure how familiar folks are with Zapier. They've been around a long time. I've always poked at it and thought it was cool. I've never used it nearly as extensively as I am now. But you can, if you have a custom GPT that you like, you can easily convert that into an assistant on the OpenAI side. So that is actually going into the OpenAI platform. It's typically what developers or programmers use, but it looks nearly identical and functions nearly identical to creating a custom GPT. But you create these assistants that can be used in many different ways. So the video that I just put live today is an assistant, which is basically a custom GPT that reads all my emails that come in and creates a draft based on an FAQ of information that I've created about myself. And this is huge for any business that is getting overwhelmed with just random email outreach or just small little requests that are related to their FAQ. So that uses this assistant, OpenAI's assistant, in conjunction with Zapier to read and respond. It just creates a draft in the email box based on whatever the AI has come up with a response based on the information that you've uploaded. So then you can read that response and edit it a little bit, send it right off. Or if it's way off, you can say, this is something we need to figure out and add more information into the system there. But this Zapier integration with these assistants is just massive. I have another one set up, getting back closer to your point, where I get a ton of these AI email newsletters every week, and I was spending 5, 6, 7 hours reading these email newsletters. Now I have them going straight to the AI. The AI looks at them and it pulls out actionable news based on what I'm looking for. So things that marketers can implement today, and it pulls those into a spreadsheet for me. So at the end of the week, I can just look at several lines of a spreadsheet. The AI has read all of the emails and has created little bullet points about actionable ideas to use what was ever in those emails for marketers, for my specific audience. So anybody can be doing that as well, kind of converting these news feeds into exactly what they might be interested in or their clients might be interested in.
How does somebody figure out how to do that? Is this some YouTube videos that you have on your Blazing Zebra?
I do have one, about the email. I'm going to be building more and more about this, but it's really these Zapier integrations with the OpenAI assistants. I think just getting in, looking up some information about how to create these assistants, it's just the same process as creating a custom GPT, only it is much more flexible and can be used inside of Zapier to do all kinds of things. It can plug into your CRM. Zapier connects, tens of thousands of software pieces to one another. Yes. There's just a million ways to use these tools now inside of that.
Yeah, it sounds to me like something I really want to get my head around.
That's a lot there.
slightly blowing my mind, but it sounds really fascinating. Well, look, the key thing is that if you've got a YouTube video that sort of even just shows a little bit of that, put it in send that to me so we'll have it in the show notes, but also make sure the channel is in the show notes.
I will. Yeah. The one I just uploaded today, automating your inbox, is I think a great place to get started, because I walked through that conversion I even walked through basically how to create a custom GPT, and then how to move that into an assistant, and how to plug that into Zapier for the email process.
Yeah. So let's just change gear a bit, because
Sure.
One of the challenge that everybody has is doing more with less. Budgets are frozen, demand is more, and there's a need to do more personalization. And so you've got to do more and more and more with fewer and fewer resources and smaller staff, right? Fewer staff members. If you're a CMO or a marketing director and you've got a team here, what can you do to help improve the productivity of your team?
So the big thing that I keep coming back to here, a lot of folks that I'm working with are struggling. They're like, it's okay. They haven't really spent the time, Adam, that you have to get these tools to be working as well as they should be. One thing I like to remind them of is that these tools are very good at taking an entry-level person or a lower-level person and bringing them up to above average. It's a lot harder for somebody that's amazing at something to replace them or to really improve upon their process. So the massive leverage point is getting those entry-level people or those lower-level folks doing things building processes with these tools to get them to that medium to higher level, and not spin your wheels so much trying to, like, if you have a great blog writer who knows your space and everything, it's going to be really hard for the AI to outperform or replace that person, thank goodness. But in addition to that, there are probably pain points that person goes through when they're pulling together their drafts that these tools might be useful for. Maybe it's the research part of it. Like I mentioned, maybe they can use it to automate the collection of their email and sort different interesting topics so that they know what to write about and they're more on the pulse of it, save time there. So thinking about different little pieces of their process and automating those rather than expecting to just say, hey, write me a killer, very timely health tech blog post that's going to beat my best copywriter. It's not going to happen. But you could take somebody who's brand new to the team, just graduated college, and give them a little bit of training on this. And I bet they could create a much better initial draft using these tools than they would without them.
Got it. Okay. So there's one of the key things here. So the takeaway is take the time to learn how to teach your people how to use these tools. And I mean, it's a big ask though, if you're a marketing director or the CMO, you've got a lot on your plate. How do you get skilled up to the level where you could teach somebody who may even be more technically proficient? I mean, I'm old enough to remember when I was the kid who was teaching the more senior people how to do tech stuff. And now I sort of expect it's the younger people coming out of college who are going to teach me how to do it. But I guess that's not the case, right?
Well, yeah, I think every organization's different. And frankly, this is a big topic of conversation because it's a culture shift. People are getting a lot of pushback. There's a lot of people that are anti-AI for reasonable reasons. But there needs to be sort of a tone set from the top. There needs to be, just giving access to these tools, make sure that they don't have to pay for it themselves or whatever, that it's encouraged. You can set up weekly calls where people can share what they've done, how they've used it, but really just getting in there, getting your hands dirty, using it on a daily basis and building that muscle, just like working out, building those habits that you're thinking of, how could I use AI for this? And so I'm kind of just always all day long, continuously going back to that and giving myself a little bit of space where I think I can automate this. If I had 20 minutes like this morning, I was rushing around, busy morning, but I'm like, I'm going to take 10, 15 minutes and create this custom GPT that will create these YouTube descriptions that I will now be using forever.
Yeah.
Giving yourself that, building that muscle that allows you to do that is going to take some work and kind of a mindset shift.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're an experimenter. You go off and you'll play around with this stuff and teach yourself how to do it. But most people are not going to do it. So what I would advise anybody listening to this is to kind of go through the process that we did with you, which is we broke down some of the big activities or the big processes that we go through: content creation, email creation, doing research, SEO, etc. There were about half a dozen of them. There maybe 7 or 8, I think we did. And with each one, you worked with a subject matter expert. So one of our content lead, for example, and you broke down the process with him. And then we did a group workshop with the whole team to show how you actually would use AI to do that. So I found that was a really useful exercise. And it worked on a couple of levels. So first of all, everybody learned the skill and a repeatable process to go use. That was sort of like, okay, great. We've got the instruction manual is not the right word, but basically how to get started so that you could get over the inertia of a lack of confidence. That was, one big aspect to it. The other thing that I thought was so great about it is that there's so much going on and everybody's picking up little things, and everybody brought something that they tried to that. So I think a couple of them brought in some tools that I think you'd heard of but hadn't tried before and were able to, so creating an environment where people can actually collaborate, sort of contribute to the whole, I think is very important. So I would certainly say, I get this conversation. I have this conversation, actually I had 2 or 3 this week, with senior marketing people who are thinking about how to go about this. And they're hiring guys like you, hiring men and women like you, coaches, to help them go through this process. So it's just a plug for Casey. You can actually contact me and we'll help you get you set up. But
I think that's a good way to start, going departmentally and letting everyone kind of see, even if it's not related to their specific job, they can still kind of peer over the shoulder and see how we solved a certain problem, or even if just a certain part of a problem and how we automated that, etc. So I think that's definitely one good way, especially as you're just getting started, going department by department, looking at what is the one big thing that they're accountable for. Then I think like we're moving into maybe this next phase where it's like, now we want to go really deep on one problem. So we want to focus on one thing, whatever it is, and give yourself, I think 3 months is a good time period of giving yourself a big challenge to say, if we can fix this, or we can create some system that automates this certain thing, it will be a major game changer for the organization. So those are sort of 2 different ways to think about it, the broad and then the kind of the deep and narrow way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to break it down into things that people can do in an actionable way. Okay, so I want to just two close questions for you to close on. One was sort of, what are some of the cool tools that people might not have heard of that they should check out? And the second thing is, what are you excited about in the foreseeable future? I don't even want to say like the next year, because the next year, we think about how far it's come in the last year, it's sort of like it'd be impossible to predict that. But what's new and cool, and what are you excited about that's coming up?
Sure. So again, Zapier is like top of mind, and I know they've been around a while, so people might not be as excited about that, but I've tried again for the first time, I guess, because I've been blown away by what I've been able to do in there. So you can connect these assistants, these custom GPTs to your email, to your CRM, to your other tools. So I think that's massive. There's a few others that I have my eye on. One is called make.com. Relevance AI is another one, and 8in8, the numeral 8, the letter N, and the numeral 8. Okay. We'll
include those in the show note. What do they do?
So there are different ways of automating processes using ChatGPT at different points. So most of them have a nice drag and drop interface where you can drag in different tools and then connect them together, connect them to AI to perform different tasks. I think this is becoming a way where we we can tie these tools to actually start doing stuff rather than staying in that browser window at ChatGPT and just asking it to write things or asking it to make decisions. In the custom GPTs, there is an actions section where you can get it to perform different actions, which is really exciting to me. That gets pretty quickly into programming. So everything in ChatGPT has been so easy. Everyone assumes, oh, if I just click this actions and write a few things in here, I'll be able to get it to do all this stuff. But it's a little bit more complicated than it seems at first. I'm excited about that, but I think these tools like Zapier, Make, 8 in 8 can really pull this into your process in a major way. So there's going to be compatibility issues. I think there's just a lot of opportunity I see, where this time last year I was kind of like wondering how all this was going to shake out. I really feel like there is just so much that people can be doing with this, that people can be learning, that people can be implementing. Folks who are really good at Salesforce, the behind the scenes mechanics of setting up Salesforce apps, like they're going to have a field day with all of this, as are anybody that has some sort of technical information or skill set. Plugging this in is going to just really elevate all of those different tools.
Any new things on the horizon, like with ChatGPT 5? Is that coming down? Is that
they're talking a lot about AGI. There's a lot of controversy of what AGI is. Artificial general intelligence. So this is the big kahuna, where it's going to be, they say, better than any human at any task almost. So,
but that's not 2024, is it?
Yeah, there's a high likelihood that's
really. I don't know. Yeah. Sam Altman has been going around just in the last few months, kind of like I don't know if you remember when Sam Altman got fired from OpenAI. It was a big drama. Yeah, that was a few weekends ago, right?
Right around Thanksgiving. Yeah. So a lot of that people assume was because they really have it already, and they're really nervous about how to deploy this thing. So I guess above and beyond, that's what's on my mind. But I think there's just going to be a ton of things going on as we see this embedded in all sorts of workflows. Like the video stuff is just going to be, it's already pretty amazing. It's going to just get better and better. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. I'll tell you what I'm not excited about. There's like a million tools that come out every day, and every call I get on, the people are throwing 20 or 30 different tools at me, and most of them are really not great. So I'm more excited about these foundational frontier models, focusing on just using core ChatGPT, using Anthropic, using Perplexity, getting to know those tools really well, rather than somebody trying to mash those together behind the scenes and charge you $20 a month for something that's not going to work that well. I see a lot of marketers getting confused as far as where to spend their time and attention. So if they could focus those and focus just on simple things, like don't get overwhelmed, but just try to use it when you're at the end of the day and you got 5 emails to respond to, but you got no brain power. Toss open ChatGPT and learn how to use it to help you when you have low brain energy. And you can really not only crank through those emails, but with a little practice, probably respond in a much better way than you would have if you just wrote one sentence to your team. It's going to cause more confusion downstream, etc. So
it is about that, developing a habit around using it. I mean, I remember 6 months ago, I used it occasionally. I just sort of wasn't really sure what I was doing. And now I probably use it 3 or 4 times a day. And, I don't even think about it. But what I'm doing is I'm just doing the stuff that I know how to do and doing that repetitively. And so what I love about every time I talk to you is like, oh, I got to try that thing. Try out the Zapier thing. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, that's a game changer. And it's always changing, because for a while, Perplexity was my go-to for searching the internet. But now the Bing search inside of ChatGPT has gotten way better. So I'm building a little home gym in my basement. And with a few searches, it mapped out how we're going to do it. What are the pieces that I was forgetting and what are the costs associated? I love it. Even just another thing I've been using it for, I think a lot about compounding interests and compounding. It's kind of hard to calculate anything that's on an exponential growth curve. So you can just ask it to do that, and it'll map out the graph exactly of what the exponential growth curve could be, or any sort of math thing that you want to think about. It's like, can you make me a graph? I'm at X number of subscribers on my YouTube channel today. If this grows by 1% a day, where am I going to be in a year and a half? And it'll just plot out this graph, and I'll be like, all right, great. How do I do it? Now do this for me.
Fantastic. Never raise me. That's right. Can you contact a VC and raise $20 million?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Casey, it is always fun to talk to you, and get you back in another 6 months, by which time, actually what I'll probably do is I'll get the artificial general intelligence version of Casey Meehan, and I'll interview that.
You might know a lot more about what's going on.
Well, I'll have my AIGA call your AIGA, and they'll do a podcast together.
There you go. Sounds good. And we'll be hanging out in London together somewhere.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely. All right. Well, Casey, thank you. Great to have you on the show. And I'm just going to wrap things up here.
Great to be here.
And so thank you to all of you for listening, for watching, however you're consuming today. If you're watching, you can subscribe on the podcast. If you're on the podcast and you want to see what we look like, you can find us on the YouTube. I think we've got the links in the show notes. And plenty more guests coming up, lots more topics. We're doing this weekly. We're going to be doing a live one in a couple of weeks, and lots more stuff coming up. So keep following us, and thank you for listening. Bye.